The colony world of Orion was young compared to Earth. Its cities were small, its people fewer, and its wilderness vast and untamed. The land stretched in green valleys and silver rivers, framed by high mountains that shone under twin suns. Among those peaks stood one unlike any other. It was taller, darker, and every night it glowed faintly as if fire lived inside its heart. The settlers called it the Flame Mountain. They spoke of it in whispers, telling children never to wander near it. Some said it was cursed. Others said it was the tomb of a forgotten race. None could explain why it never stopped glowing. Rian had grown up listening to those stories. As a boy, he would sit outside the mining settlement, staring at the mountain that always seemed alive. While others feared it, he felt drawn toward it. When he became older and worked as a miner, he still found himself looking at that glow after long shifts, wondering what secret it kept. Most dismissed him when he asked questions. They said the mountain was dangerous, best left alone. Ryan, however, was not one to ignore mysteries. The settlers of Orion were practical people. They had come across space not for adventure but for survival. Earth had grown crowded, and new worlds offered a chance to begin again. They built farms, mines, and shelters, working hard to secure their place. Yet the Flame Mountain stood outside all plans. It was not mined. It was not climbed. Even the bravest hunters stayed clear of its foothills. Strange things were said to happen near it. Compasses spun, radio signals failed, and fires burned hotter than normal. These stories only added to the fear. Rian kept notes of every tale he heard. In a small worn notebook, he collected reports of flickering lights, shifting shadows, and strange sounds. While most called it superstition, he believed there had to be truth behind it. He began to study old maps stored in the colony archives. Most settlers never cared for them, but Rian was fascinated. One map, drawn by the first survey team who landed on Orion decades earlier, showed tunnels leading toward the mountain's base. Strangely, those tunnels were not natural caves. They were too straight, too deliberate. Whoever made them had worked with purpose. This discovery stirred something inside him. For the first time, he felt certain the mountain's glow was not just a natural fire. Someone or something had placed it there. That night, sitting by the window of his small dwelling, he watched the faint red shimmer that crowned the peak and made a quiet promise to himself. One day he would go inside and learn the truth. The days of the colony passed in routine. Work in the mines was tiring but steady. Families grew crops in the valleys and children played near the rivers. Yet always in the distance the Flame Mountain stood, reminding everyone of its presence. Ryan found himself unable to ignore it anymore. He began to ask questions during breaks, speaking with older miners who remembered the early years. One elderly man, Joran, recalled a time when a small group had tried to approach the mountain. They carried tools and scanners hoping to claim its resources. None returned. Search parties found no sign of them except for melted equipment near the foothills. After that, the council declared the mountain forbidden. Rian listened closely, noting every detail. The idea of melted equipment troubled him. Fire strong enough to destroy metal was no ordinary flame. Could it be an energy source? Could it be technology? He felt his curiosity sharpen. When he asked Joran if he believed it was dangerous, the man shook his head slowly. Dangerous, yes, but not evil. Things that old are beyond good and bad. They simply are. The council, however, would not listen. When Ryan asked for permission to investigate the tunnels, they refused firmly. The mountain is closed, they told him. We cannot risk losing more people. Our colony is fragile. We cannot afford reckless adventure. Their words were final. Most would have stopped then, but Rian could not. He did not seek treasure or glory. He only wanted to know. Knowledge, he believed, was never wasteful. That night he walked again to the ridge above the settlement. From there he could see the mountain clearly. The glow was stronger that evening, painting the clouds with faint red. He wondered if it was calling to him. The idea seemed foolish, yet he could not shake the feeling. The mountain was not silent. It had a voice, though no one else seemed to hear it. Ryan began to prepare quietly. He studied mining equipment that could withstand high heat. He tested breathing masks and light sources. He packed ropes, scanners, and food rations. Each task filled him with a mix of excitement and fear. He knew he might not return, but he also knew he could not rest until he tried. He kept his plans secret, telling no one, not even his closest friend in the settlement. It was not because he lacked trust, but because he did not want to be stopped. As he worked, his mind filled with questions. Who had carved the tunnels? Why had they chosen this mountain? What was the source of the eternal fire? If it was natural, it should have faded over centuries, but it had not. If it was artificial, then someone had built it. Were they still here? Or had they vanished long before humans came? Each question made his resolve stronger. One evening, while packing his last supplies, Ryan heard a knock at his door. To his surprise, it was Mira, a young researcher who worked with old colony records. She held a thin datapad in her hand. "I know what you're planning," she said softly. Ryan froze, but Mira did not accuse him. Instead, she showed him the pad. On it was a record he had never seen, hidden in restricted files. It described strange energy readings from beneath the mountain, detected by orbiting satellites. The council had locked the data away, afraid it might encourage exploration. "They fear what they do not understand," Mira said. "But I think you're right. There is something there, and you cannot go alone." Her words both surprised and comforted him. For the first time, he realized he did not have to face the mystery without help. Mira's knowledge of old records would be valuable, and perhaps her presence would ease his loneliness. Together they planned in secret, deciding on a path toward the base of the mountain. It would be dangerous, but the thought of discovery filled them with quiet courage. The night before their journey, Ryan stood once more at the ridge, gazing at the glow. The mountain seemed brighter than ever, as if it sensed what was coming. He felt the weight of centuries pressing down, but also the spark of human determination rising within. The settlers of Orion had come to survive, but perhaps survival was not enough. Perhaps humanity was meant to seek, to question, to uncover. He whispered to the mountain, though he did not know why. "I am coming." The stars shone above, cold and endless, yet the glow of the flame mountain burned warmer than any of them. Ryan knew he might not return, but he also knew the journey must begin. With Mira by his side, he would step into the unknown. The tomb beneath the mountain waited, and whatever secret it held would soon meet human eyes. Morning arrived quiet and pale, the twin suns rising slowly over the horizon of Orion. The fields near the settlement glistened with dew, and the sound of birds carried in the wind. To most colonists, it was just another day of work and routine, but for Ryan and Mira, it was the beginning of something greater. They stood at the edge of the settlement with their packs secured, their tools checked twice and their hearts steady. Ahead lay the foothills of the Flame Mountain, a land untouched by human hands. Ryan led the way, his boots crunching over the dry earth. Mira followed close, carrying a small scanner across her chest. She had insisted on bringing it, explaining that it could read energy signals buried in rock. The climb toward the foothills was not easy. The ground sloped upward, and the air grew warmer with each step. Behind them, the settlement grew smaller, until it looked like a cluster of tiny houses scattered across the valley. Before them, the mountain loomed larger, its glow faint even under daylight. As they walked, Mira spoke softly, perhaps to calm her nerves. "When I first saw the records of this place, I thought the glow must be volcanic. But there is no record of eruptions, no ash layers in the soil. Nothing that shows this mountain is alive in a natural way. That means something inside is burning without end." Ryan nodded. He had thought the same many times. "A fire that never dies," he said. "That is no normal flame. It must have a source, something built or placed there." The foothills rose steep and jagged with stones sharp underfoot. Heat shimmered across the ground, though the suns were not yet at their peak. The air felt heavy, as if they were walking into a furnace. Mira checked her scanner. Strange signals pulsed across its surface. Not regular like radio waves, but shifting patterns. She frowned. "It feels almost alive," she whispered, "as if the mountain is watching us." By noon they reached the shadow of the mountain itself. The glow was harder to see in the bright light, but when they looked into shaded cracks of stone, faint red lines glimmered, running deep like veins. Ryan placed his hand against the surface. The stone was warm, far warmer than it should have been. He pulled back quickly, his heart beating faster. Whatever burned inside was close. They rested for a while, eating dried food and drinking water from metal flasks. The silence around them was heavy. No birds sang here. No insects moved across the ground. It was as if the mountain had claimed this place, keeping all life away. Mira adjusted her pack and glanced at Ryan. "Are you certain we should continue?" The council was clear. They wanted no one near this place. Ryan looked up at the great wall of stone before them. "The council fears what they do not understand." But if humans always turned away from the unknown, we would never have crossed the stars. We came here to build a future, and that future will be stronger if we learn the truth. His voice was steady, filled with quiet conviction. Mira listened, then nodded. She understood. The path into the mountain began with a dark opening hidden between jagged rocks at its base. From a distance it looked like a shadow, but as they approached they saw smooth walls leading inward. It was not a natural cave. The lines were too straight, the angle too precise. Someone had carved this passage long ago. The air from within was hot, carrying a faint metallic scent. Ryan switched on a lamp attached to his pack, casting light forward. The wall shone faintly, reflecting not stone but something mixed with metal. They stepped inside. The air grew warmer at once and the glow around them deepened. Their footsteps echoed strangely, as if the tunnel stretched farther than sight allowed. Mira ran her hand over the wall. The surface was covered in faint carvings, not letters she could understand but shapes that seemed to shift under light. "This is not natural," she said quietly. "This is design. These tunnels were made for a reason." Deeper they went, the light from outside fading until only their lamps and the red glow guided them. The tunnel sloped downward, leading them into the heart of the mountain. The heat pressed against their bodies, sweat forming quickly on their skin, yet neither turned back. Curiosity pulled them forward like a rope tied to their hearts. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a wide chamber. The walls curved upward in perfect arcs and the floor was smooth as if polished by unknown machines. Strange objects lay scattered, half buried in dust. Some looked like broken machines, their surfaces rusted yet still humming faintly with energy. Ryan knelt beside one, brushing away dirt. It was unlike anything he had seen in human minds. Thin wires stretched across its surface like veins, pulsing with dim light. Mira scanned it with her device. "It still carries power," she whispered. "After all this time, it still lives." The chamber had several paths leading deeper. Each glowed faintly red, like veins leading into the body of the mountain. They chose one at random, following the slope further down. The silence was heavy, broken only by their footsteps and the hum of unseen machines. At times, the ground trembled softly, as if the mountain breathed beneath their feet. The walls became stranger as they descended. Carvings grew more detailed, showing shapes of tall figures with long limbs standing around a flame. In some carvings, the flame was held high. In others, it consumed the figures themselves. Mira studied them closely, her brow furrowed. "These are warnings," she said. "They tell of the flame, of its power, and of those who sought it. Whoever made this wanted others to fear." Ryan looked at the carvings. He felt no fear, only a deeper curiosity. If they wished to keep others away, then they knew this fire was dangerous. Yet danger often hides knowledge. His words were steady, but Mira could hear the determination behind them. They walked on until the tunnel ended in another chamber, larger than the first. Here the glow was brighter, filling the space with soft red light. In the center of the room stood a structure that rose like an altar. Upon it rested a sphere, glowing faintly, its surface shifting like liquid fire. Heat poured from it, yet it did not burn the stone beneath. Around the altar lay rows of strange objects like statues, each shaped vaguely like tall beings who once lived here. Ryan stepped forward, awe filling his chest. He could feel the warmth reaching him, not only through his skin but deeper, almost touching his thoughts. Mira held back, scanning the air. "The energy is strong," she said. "Stronger than anything I have ever seen. If this is only one fragment, what lies deeper inside?" Ryan looked around the chamber. The statues seemed to watch them, silent guardians frozen in time. He felt no malice from them, only patience, as if they waited for something. He turned back to the glowing sphere. "This is not just a tomb," he said softly. "This is a place of test. The fire waits." Mira's eyes widened at his words. She felt it too now. A sense that the flame was not lifeless. It was aware in some distant way. They stood in silence, the weight of discovery pressing on them. Humanity had touched the edge of something greater, something left behind by a race long gone. And this was only the beginning. The mountain still reached far deeper, and its eternal fire still guarded secrets that no human had ever seen. Ryan and Mira exchanged a look. There was fear in their eyes, but stronger than fear was determination. They had taken the first step into the unknown, and the descent was far from over. The chamber was silent except for the faint hum of the glowing sphere. Ryan and Mira stood close to it, their faces lit by the soft red light that seemed alive. The warmth pressed against them, but it was not the burn of fire. It was something deeper, like energy woven into the air itself. Both felt they had crossed into a place where human steps had never belonged. Rian reached out slowly, not to touch the sphere, but to feel the space around it. The warmth grew stronger as his hand neared. A gentle vibration hummed against his skin. He pulled back, his heart racing. Mira kept her scanner raised. Its display flickered wildly, unable to capture clear readings. "The device cannot measure this," she said. "It is beyond our scale. This energy is not like anything I know." Ryan studied the statues that lined the chamber. Each figure stood tall with long arms crossed over their chests. Their faces were featureless, yet he felt the weight of their gaze. They had been shaped with great care, not as decoration but as guardians of the flame. "They are watching," he said softly. Mira frowned. "They are stone. They cannot watch." Yet even as she spoke, she felt the same unease. As they stood, the chamber began to change. The glow of the sphere brightened, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. The statues stirred. What had seemed lifeless stone began to move, cracks opening as joints shifted. Dust fell from their bodies as they stepped forward in unison. Mira gasped and stumbled back, but Ryan stood firm, his eyes wide with wonder. The guardians were awake. Their movements were slow but deliberate. They formed a circle around the altar, their long limbs moving with fluid grace. When they spoke, it was not with mouths but with sound that filled the chamber itself, deep and layered like many voices speaking at once. "You have entered the tomb of fire," the voices said. "You are human. You are not the first to come, but you may be the last. Speak why you are here." The sound pressed into Ryan's chest. He struggled to form words, but his heart steadied. He took a breath and answered, his voice clear. "We came not to take, but to understand. The fire calls to us, and we wish to know its truth." The guardians were still for a moment. Then the layered voices rose again. "Long before you, many came. They desired the fire for conquest, for power, for their own pride. All failed. The flame consumed them. Their worlds turned to ruin." Mira listened with growing dread. She thought of the carvings they had seen in the tunnels, the tall figures consumed by flame. It was true. This fire had destroyed entire civilizations. She looked at Rian with fear in her eyes. "We should leave," she whispered. "This is not meant for us," but Ryan shook his head. He felt something stirring inside him, not fear but defiance. He stepped closer to the circle of guardians. "Humans are not like them," he said. "We do not seek to conquer the fire. We seek to learn, to carry its knowledge, not its destruction." The guardians tilted their heads as if considering his words. The chamber shook faintly, dust falling from the ceiling. The flame pulsed brighter, responding to the voices. "Your kind is young," they said. "Your history is short. You know hunger, you know war, you know greed. Why should the fire trust you? Why should humanity not fall as others did?" The question struck hard. Ryan lowered his head, his hands clenched. Mira stepped forward this time, her voice steady though her body trembled. "Because we also know hope. We know how to build from nothing. We know how to endure. Every star we cross, every world we reach is proof that we choose life over despair. We are more than hunger and war. We are also the will to continue." Her words filled the chamber. The flame pulsed again, softer now, as if listening. The guardians moved closer, their tall forms casting long shadows across the floor. Their layered voices grew slower, almost thoughtful. Few have spoken thus. Many pleaded for power. Others begged for mercy. "You speak of endurance. You speak of hope." Ryan raised his eyes, meeting their faceless forms without fear. "That is who we are. We stumble, but we rise again. If the fire is a trial, then let us face it as humans, not to rule it, but to prove we are worthy to carry it without falling." The chamber grew silent again. The flame dimmed, then flared so brightly that both humans had to shield their eyes. The guardians raised their arms, their movements graceful like a ritual. "The trial begins," they declared. At once the floor beneath them shifted. The chamber dissolved into light, and Ryan and Mira found themselves standing in a vast plain of fire. Yet the fire did not burn their skin. It surrounded them like air, glowing in endless waves. In the distance, shadows moved, figures tall and broken, echoes of those who had failed before. Their forms flickered, consumed by flame, reaching out with silent cries. Mira's heart pounded. She felt the weight of their despair pressing against her, whispering of failure, of weakness. She stumbled, clutching her head. I cannot hold it," she gasped. Rian grasped her hand, pulling her upright. His grip was strong, his voice firm. Do not listen. These are not our voices. We are not them. We are human. His eyes burned with determination. Look forward, not back. Together they walked across the plain. The shadows tried to surround them, whispering doubt. Each step was heavy, but Rian never let go of Mira's hand. He spoke steadily, words simple but strong. We endure, we rise, we do not stop. Mira listened, and slowly the whispers grew faint. She felt strength return to her limbs, hope rising within her chest. The plain stretched endlessly, yet at its center stood a great flame taller than any mountain. Its light was pure, not red but golden, filling the air with warmth. The shadows fled from it, dissolving into sparks. Ryan and Mira stood before it, awed by its power. The flame spoke in a voice that was not sound but thought. You have faced the echoes of ruin, it said. You did not surrender. You carried each other. You remembered hope. This is the strength of humanity. The golden fire bent downward, touching their chests with a warmth that filled them without burning. They felt energy flow through their bodies, not as power to destroy, but as strength to endure, as light to guide. Then the plane dissolved, and they found themselves back in the chamber. The guardians stood still once more, their arms lowered. The sphere on the altar glowed golden now, brighter than before. The voices filled the chamber, no longer harsh but calm. You have passed the first trial. You are not like those who came before. Humanity carries a fire within that is not of conquest, but of endurance. The path deeper is open. A section of the wall shifted, revealing a new tunnel descending further into the mountain. Ryan and Mira stood in silence, their bodies trembling, their hearts still racing. They looked at each other, and in their eyes was the same understanding. They had faced something greater than themselves and had not been broken. Rian turned toward the new path. The guardians have tested us. Now we must see what lies beyond. His voice was calm, filled with certainty. Mira nodded, gripping her scanner tightly. We go together. They stepped forward, leaving the chamber behind. The statues returned to stillness, their task complete. The flame continued to glow, its golden light filling the room like a promise. Humanity had spoken, and the tomb beneath the mountain had listened. The descent had only just begun. The tunnel beyond the chamber was narrow and steep, lit by a faint glow that pulsed within the walls. Ryan and Mira walked carefully, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The air grew warmer with each step, yet it was not choking heat. It felt like they were moving deeper into the heart of something alive. Neither spoke for a while. Their minds were full of the trial they had faced in the Chamber of Guardians. The plane of fire, the shadows of fallen races, the touch of the golden flame, each moment still burned in their memory. Mira kept glancing at her scanner, but its screen was filled with strange symbols she could not read. The device was overwhelmed. Ryan carried no machine. He walked with steady eyes, guided by instinct. At last, Mira broke the silence. The flame tested us. It gave us strength, but why? What lies deeper? Her voice held a mix of fear and wonder. Rian answered without slowing his steps. The flame does not give freely. It offers choice. It waits to see if we are ready to carry it. What lies deeper is the truth of that choice. The tunnel widened into another chamber larger than the first. Here the glow was stronger, filling the space with red and gold light. At its center stood a vast pool of liquid fire, its surface shifting like molten glass. Above it hung a structure like a crown, suspended in the air by unseen force. Lines of energy flowed from the pool into the crown, rising and falling like breath. Around the edges of the chamber were carvings more detailed than before. They showed races lifting the crown in triumph, then falling into ruin as their worlds crumbled. Mira's breath caught in her throat. This is the heart, she whispered. This is where the fire truly rests. As they approached, the guardians' voices filled the chamber, though no statues stood here. The sound came from the fire itself, layered and deep. You have faced the shadows and endured. Now you stand before the crown of flame. Here is the final choice. To take it is to hold endless power. To refuse is to leave with nothing but memory. Decide, humans, for your path will mark your kind. The words echoed through the chamber, heavy as stone. Mira stared at the pool, her face pale. If we take it, we risk becoming like those before us. If we leave, we lose what could be the greatest discovery in history. Ryan stepped closer to the edge of the pool. The heat pressed against him, yet it did not burn. He saw his reflection on the shifting surface. Tired eyes, dust-streaked face, yet steady and unyielding. He thought of his people in the settlement, struggling each day to build a future. He thought of Earth far away, filled with billions still searching for hope. The fire whispered to him. He felt its pull not of greed but of possibility. Endless energy could lift humanity beyond hunger and struggle. But he also saw the danger. With such power, pride could rise, greed could grow, and destruction could follow. The carvings around the chamber were warnings carved by those who had lived and fallen. Mira's voice trembled as she spoke again. If we take it even with good intentions, can we control it? Can anyone? We are still learning, still growing. What if it consumes us as it did them? Ryan turned toward her, his expression calm. The flame is not asking us to control it. It is asking us to choose what we seek. Do we desire conquest or do we desire endurance? Do we see power as a weapon or as a gift to sustain life? Mira lowered her eyes. What if the council learns we left such power untouched? They will call us fools. Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder. Sometimes wisdom is in walking away, but I do not think we will leave empty-handed. The flame sees deeper than pride. It knows when a heart chooses with humility. The chamber brightened. The pool of fire surged upward, and from it rose a figure shaped from pure light. It stood tall, taller than any guardian statue, its form shifting like a river of flame. When it spoke, its voice was not layered but singular, clear and vast. You see the truth, the flame said. The crown is temptation. Many took it seeking to rule, all fell. You speak not of conquest but of choice. You understand that power without humility brings only ruin. This is the path few have walked. Ryan bowed his head slightly, not in worship but in respect. We ask not for dominion. We ask only for knowledge that helps us endure, that helps us carry light without consuming all around us. The figure studied them in silence, its golden form flickering gently. Then it stretched out its hands. A fragment of the pool lifted, shaping itself into a small crystal of light glowing warm and steady. The figure lowered it into Ryan's hands. The crystal pulsed with calm energy, not wild like fire but gentle like a beating heart. This is not the crown, the flame said. This is a gift. Endless power lies within, but only to sustain, never to destroy. Carry it wisely, and it will feed your people, heal your worlds, and light your path. Fail to honor it, and it will fade. This is humanity's choice, and this is humanity's chance. Ryan felt the warmth of the crystal in his palms. It was light, yet filled with strength. Mira's eyes shone as she looked at it. It is beautiful, she whispered. It is life, not weapon. The flame figure began to fade, sinking back into the pool. Remember, it said, its voice soft now. The tomb is not prison, but test. Those who seek with pride will fall. Those who choose with humility will rise. Humanity has spoken. Go now and carry your gift. The chamber dimmed, the pool returning to its steady glow. The crown above melted away, dissolving into sparks. Only the gift remained, pulsing in Ryan's hands. He held it close, feeling not pride but responsibility. Mira stood beside him, her heart steady. Together they turned toward the tunnel that led upward. As they walked back through the passages, the carvings on the walls seemed to glow softly, as if acknowledging their choice. The guardians in the first chamber stood silent once more, their trial complete. The golden sphere on the altar pulsed gently, its light calmer than before. When they stepped out into the open air at last, the suns were setting. The sky blazed with orange and crimson, and the mountain behind them glowed faintly, though softer now. It was as if the eternal fire no longer needed to burn so fiercely, for a part of it had been entrusted to humanity. Ryan looked at the valley below, where the settlement lay small and distant. He thought of the crystal in his hands and what it could mean. No longer would his people fear the mountain. No longer would they live in the shadow of a curse. Instead, they carried a gift of light. Mira stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Do you think they will understand?" she asked quietly. Ryan smiled faintly. "Perhaps not at once, but in time they will see. The flame is not for conquest. It is for life. That is the choice we made." They began their journey down the slopes, the air cool against their faces. The path ahead was uncertain, but their steps were firm. Humanity had entered the tomb beneath the mountain and walked out not as thieves but as keepers of a gift. The eternal fire had tested them, and in their choice, it had found hope. The descent from the mountain was slower than Ryan and Mira expected. The tunnels they had once hurried through now seemed long and quiet. Every sound echoed, every footstep marking their return to the world above. Yet both felt a lightness in their hearts, a calm that had not been there before. The crystal of golden flame pulsed softly in Ryan's hand, warm and steady, as if it carried a heartbeat of its own. When they emerged into daylight, the twin suns were high in the sky. The valley below stretched green and wide. The settlement looked the same as it had when they left, yet nothing felt the same. The mountain behind them glowed faintly, no longer fierce and red, but gentle and welcoming. It was as if the mountain itself acknowledged the choice they had made. Mira scanned the valley with her eyes. "Do you think they will believe us?" she asked quietly. "The council, the people, the stories we will tell?" Ryan did not answer immediately. He looked down at the crystal. Its light reflected in his eyes, steady and calm. "Some may not believe," he said finally. "Some may fear what they do not understand. But truth does not depend on belief. It depends on action. We have carried the gift safely. That is proof enough." They reached the settlement as the first people noticed them. Children ran forward, curious at their sudden appearance. The adults followed more cautiously, eyes wide with wonder and concern. The council had gathered, ready to scold, ready to question, ready to command. But when they saw the calm determination on Ryan's face, they paused. One of the council elders stepped forward. "Ryan, Mira, you were gone longer than expected. What happened? What did you find?" Ryan held up the crystal, letting its soft light reflect across the faces of the council. "This," he said simply. "We found the truth of the mountain, the fire that burns within, and we were tested. The fire is not a weapon. It is a gift. It can sustain life, guide growth, and light the path of humanity, but only if it is carried with humility and hope." The council stared in silence. The crystal pulsed, calm and steady, filling the space with warmth. It was not blinding, but it carried a presence that made fear fade. Mira stepped forward, speaking carefully. "We saw what came before us. Many tried to claim the fire for power. They failed. They were consumed. The mountain is not a trap, but a test. We have passed it because we sought knowledge, not conquest. We sought endurance, not dominance." The eldest council member, a woman named Thara, studied the crystal. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached toward it. "And you believe we can use it wisely?" she asked softly. Rian nodded. "We must, but not alone. The fire is not for a single person or a single group. It belongs to everyone, for humanity itself. It will help us build, sustain, and learn. It will not destroy us unless we turn it to pride or greed." Word of their return and the crystal spread quickly through the settlement. People gathered in small groups, whispering, pointing, and staring. Some were afraid, unsure what such a gift might mean. Others were filled with hope, sensing that something extraordinary had returned to their world. Ryan and Mira stood together, calm and patient. They knew understanding would take time. That night, as the twin suns set, the mountain behind them glowed faintly, a gentle red and gold. The settlers camped at its base, watching and listening, yet keeping a respectful distance. Ryan and Mira explained what they had seen, step by step, from the tunnels to the chamber, from the guardians to the trial, to the final choice. The story was not simple, and some did not fully comprehend it. But the essence came through. Humility and endurance were as powerful as fire itself. In the days that followed, Rian and Mira began to explore ways to share the gift of the crystal without risk. They built small devices to channel its energy safely, lighting homes, powering machines, and helping crops grow in the valley. The settlers marveled at what they could now do, but Ryan reminded them constantly. The crystal was not for wealth, not for war, not for pride. It was to sustain, to support life, and to guide humanity toward better understanding. The mountain changed too. Its glow became steady, soft, and quiet. It was no longer intimidating, but welcoming. Occasionally, the crystal's light would reflect on its slopes, linking the gift with the source. Ryan sometimes thought he could see shapes in the glow, faint outlines of the guardians watching from afar, satisfied that humans had chosen wisely. As weeks passed, Ryan and Mira ventured deeper into the settlement, sharing knowledge from the tunnels and chambers. They cataloged the carvings, noting warnings and lessons left by the builders. Every record reminded them that humanity was not the first to reach this flame, yet perhaps it would be the first to carry it without destruction. They began teaching the younger generation about responsibility, humility, and hope. The mountain became a place of learning, not fear. One evening, Rian and Mira sat atop a ridge overlooking the valley. The crystal pulsed softly between them. The wind carried the scent of fresh crops, the laughter of children playing and the quiet hum of new machines powered by the gift of the flame. Mira broke the silence. Do you think it will last? Humanity has always been careless, Ryan smiled faintly. It will last if we remember why we carry it. Not for pride, not for power. The builders left this test to see if any species could choose rightly. We have, and now it is our responsibility to keep choosing every day. Mira nodded. It is more than a gift. It is a lesson. Yes, Ryan agreed. A lesson we must never forget. Over time, news of the Flame Mountain spread beyond the settlement. Other colonies, hearing of the discovery and the choice made, began to respect the mountain. Scholars and engineers came to study, not to conquer but to learn. The story of Ryan and Mira inspired people to think differently about exploration. It reminded them that knowledge without wisdom could be dangerous, and that endurance and hope were strength stronger than any weapon. The crystal itself remained with Ryan and Mira. It did not diminish or fade. It grew warmer as humans used it responsibly, its light spreading not just through machines and homes but through hearts and minds. People learned to work together, to share, and to care for their world. Slowly, the settlement on Orion began to thrive in ways it never had before. Years later, Ryan walked to the base of the mountain alone. The twin suns were high and the glow of the peak was gentle, almost comforting. He looked at the path he had taken, remembering the tunnels, the chambers, and the trial of the guardians. He held the crystal in his hand. It was warm, steady, and alive. He whispered softly as if to the mountain itself, "We have kept your trust. We have carried your lesson." The mountain seemed to pulse in reply, not with fire but with quiet light. It was a signal not of power but of acknowledgement. Humanity had passed the test and the builder's hope, left so many centuries before, had been fulfilled. Mira joined him, and they stood together silently, watching the valley below. Children played in fields, adults worked in gardens and workshops, and the settlement thrived under the calm warmth of the crystal. They had returned not as conquerors, but as guardians themselves, carrying the gift with respect, care, and hope. Do you think anyone will ever try to take it for themselves? Mira asked. Ryan shook his head slowly. If they do, they will find it does not yield to greed. The fire has taught us that. Only those who choose wisely can carry it. The mountain will protect its lesson, as it always has. They stood for a long time listening to the wind, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and crimson. The flame mountain behind them glowed faintly, a quiet reminder of what lay within and of what humanity had proven. The tomb beneath the mountain had tested them. The fire had judged them, and humans had chosen rightly. Humanity had learned a truth older than stars. Strength came not from dominance, not from conquest, but from endurance, hope, and the courage to choose wisely. And with that truth they could rise, not just on Orion, but across the stars.